what we do with 3 plays left. We had practiced these kinds of things, and they'd shown up. And we were awful on occasion. Because when we had Steve DeBerg, bless his heart, with the 49ers, if you remember, some of you that age, Steve was not yet a polished quarterback. Later, he's become an outstanding football player. But then, he was trying to do everything we were telling him. I remember a Chicago Bear game. We got the ball one last time. We tell Steve, if this man's open, if this man first, this man second, this is your alternate, throw it in if you have to. We've got one play left. Steve throws an 8-yard pass to our tight end. Of course, the crowd didn't worry about Steve. They were looking for me. So the point is, it takes time to develop these things. But we played the Bengals, I know, in 1987, I think it was. You may remember just a few years ago, when Sam Walsh, a dear friend of mine and a former player of mine and also a coaching colleague for years, made some dramatic errors in his 4-minute offense. If you remember watching that game many years ago, it was a crazy one. The Bengals had outplayed us throughout the game. We hit a couple of big passes to Mike Wilson, but they were ahead by 4 points. And no, maybe it was 6. I think they were ahead by 6 points. At the end of the game, they had the ball. And Sam made some critical errors in his 4-minute offense, and we got the ball back with 2 seconds to go. Now, all of us had all but packed our bags. I mean, the game was, for all intents and purposes, over. But Kevin Fagan made a tremendous play because Sam had called a run in which he failed to account for that defense I just spoke of. Sam lines up. This was his first mistake by leaving these people open, because we can get guys right off the edge and they don't have them out there. They're just not to throw the ball. So it should have been a close formation. But we were in a basic defense. And they had been running a sweep in which these guys would reach block beautifully. The guard would pull on the safety. This man would stop block. This man would come through and try to sort him out. This man would reach. He'd come through and try to get this backer. And they'd hand off the ball to Brooks with tremendous speed and quickness. And that play had worked beautifully. Brooks had gained over 1,000 yards. The play had worked all year. So Sam calls that play. This man reaches to make sure he can cut him off so Brooks could break it. But of course, Kevin is on a slant charge right inside. The tackle doesn't touch him. Kevin makes the stop. And all of a sudden, because of their lack of having basically a plan on what to do in a list in front of them, so they can't make this kind of mistake, they run a play that should not have been run there. Kevin makes the stop. So, where am I going? Excuse me. I hope I'm not. So, we get the ball. As soon as I tell you who's playing where, you'll know where the ball went. This is Jerry Rice here. So, typically, the Hail Mary play is the last play you'll call. We all have heard about it. The commentators tell us. These 3 men go down, the ball's thrown up, and is batted around, and once every 100 games, they catch it. But of course, that's the only play we see on TV as a replay, right? Over and over, Ahmad Rashad catching it against somebody. So there it is. So naturally, through practice, we had decided that we would try to get them to bring their defense to this side of the field, for their safety to favor it, and for us to have to deal with just 2 people and the best receiver in the history of the game. They got in their defense, They lined up. Joe dropped back, threw the ball. This man retreated only so far, threw it to Jerry. So you remember the play. Jerry just reached up, caught it, game's over, we won. Now this had been practiced. This wasn't just something I said, what the hell do we do? And Bob McKittrick came over and said, why don't you try one where the guy goes over there? She did. This is practiced. So Joe looked at me and nodded. I said, go. I mean, I didn't have to call the play. I mean, I didn't even have to call it. The offensive team knew the play. Now, had that not worked, at least we'd have left the field saying, we knew what we were going to do, we practiced it, it didn't work, it's a low percentage situation anyway, 2 seconds to win a football game, but we knew what we wanted to do. So this is an example of contingency football that every coach should account for. Now let's talk about some plays for that situation. Well, you've seen one. Of course, the one we have ripped people with over the years when we get in that low. If we've got 3 seconds to play, or excuse me, 13 seconds to play, and we're near midfield, the first thing we do when we line up this way, naturally, is throw a slant pattern to Jerry Rice over here. We've done that at Stanford, done it with Kenny Anderson, throwing to Chip Myers, whatever. 3 steps, hit that slant on the move, and you've got as good a chance to get close to the goal line as there is. So the slant, and for us, we would take these two, drive them down the field, he'd start weight and come out under it. So we'd go from here to here. This man with 3-step protect, then he'd set down right over the ball 5-yard seat. We'd go to him if we had timeouts, because he can be wide open in his zone. Now with us, this man is split exactly 12 yards. This man is split 18 yards or 3 yards from the sideline. Joe takes 3 big steps. When you throw a slant, a 3-step drop slant, you take 3 big steps and you sit on your right foot. So if I'm quarterback and I get the ball here, it's 3 big steps and then I sit on that leg. Right here. If I come from this receiver to this one, I sit, I stay right on it, I look back and shove off of it. So that's 3 big steps without a hitch step. That's one of the skills the quarterback must learn. So the slant should be caught 11 yards deep. That's how it should be caught. If you try to throw 30 of them in practice, 20 of them ought to be 11 yards deep. This man runs slightly deeper so he opens up a little later. So that is 1 play in your last 3. Okay, the next play would be one in which you would cheat this man over and bring this man in to a wing-back position. And, believe it or not, at Stanford, we've hit it. We haven't won a game with it. But now, this man's job, being split 8 yards, so there's room outside of it, is to get past this defender and work into a hooking mode in front of the corner. So he's working against whoever's out there on it. At that point, this man, as you might guess, is swinging up the field right here. The quarterback takes 7 steps. It's very big for small hitch steps, allowing him to get open and throws the ball. The longer he has to wait, the more he has to come back for it. The minute he gets it, he's ready to lateral to him. So that's a hook and lateral. Last year at Stanford, we, as you might guess, had a lot of situations where we were behind. And these were the kinds of things we did. On the other side, if the quarterback sees that this man has really been taken down, he has nowhere to go, the next guy is this one who will hook and this guy who will swing. And he is clear. So if there's a problem here immediately, we come to this situation. So that's another one that we would run. We'll be in deep trouble on this thing. Next thing would be a comeback pattern that would take this man full speed, this man full speed, as you might guess, this man 22 yards, plant and come back, and we'll throw him the ball, jump out of bounds, and get ready for one of the other plays. So it could be we go from this to the slant. But the point is, we're going to drive them deep and try to hit that. Now that takes 7 steps and a hitch step. The key for the comeback pattern is that the ball is thrown as the receiver plants his inside foot. It's probably the most underestimated or least appreciated play in football is a comeback. Most teams run it too short, but you time it so that the ball is in the air when the receiver's inside foot is hitting, so when he looks back, the ball will be on its way. On out patterns, the ball should be a third of the way there. So when the receiver plans to look back, he looks for a ball. He doesn't look for the quarterback. He looks right here because the ball could be right there. Now this you take and spend practice on. Now obviously this is isolated to the last minutes or seconds of a game, but let's just talk about a comeback pass that we would run. In our case, when I talk about these things, I'm not assuming you guys will say, okay, and they get little Freddie Epstein, and I'm going to have him take 7 steps and throw the ball to little Johnny Shiminovich. Not a lot of speed in the Shiminovich family. Epstein did not have the greatest arm in town, so it may not be a major factor for you. All I'm trying to do is help you look through your own inventories for those things that are best for you. So, on a comeback, just isolate this man and this man. This man sprints at the snap of the ball. If he's held up within the first 10 yards, we will then be ready to throw to the other side. But we don't like doing it. He sprints full speed, but typically what you want out of a receiver is sprint hard, lull, and burst. The key to any pass pattern is a burst at the end of the pattern just before the ball's thrown. If, as you watch your receivers releasing down the field, if they're beginning to slow down and check up and break, the defensive man, you have to assume, is slowing down, checking up, and covering. So if I'm a defensive back, it's not verbal. I'm not thinking, oh my boy, slowing down, I think I will. No, it's non-verbal. It's just a response. So if that receiver is slowing and breaking, the defensive back slows and breaks right with it. So the key is, just before the break, you duck your head, you pump your arms hard. Now this is how Freddie Biletnikoff became a great receiver. If you ever watched his play in black and white, by the way, if you watched his play, he gave the impression of bursting and then breaking everything he did. So if you'll watch him from behind, he found a way, the last 5 yards, to have his knees pumping, his arms pumping, drop his head and then plant and break. Now what you like to think is at that point, the defensive back goes, whoa, and he breaks. So if you get that defensive back on his heels, at that point, you have beaten him. But if you slow down to do it, he slows down to do it. So, that's the start. Let me try to, I'm going to break this machine, I think.